What's up, everybody, and welcome to an all-new episode of Casters of Horror. I'm Chris Mess.
I'm Shane, and this week, our full spoiler discussion of Halloween Ends.
Yes, it's finally over.
Yes, Halloween is... No, this will be the very last Halloween movie that's ever made. For now.
For now. We'll leave it. We'll leave it at that at the moment. But first, we're going to jump into a little bit of movie news. Movie news. So last week we talked about Hellraiser. If you guys haven't watched that one, make sure you guys check that one out. But after we had done the podcast, or after we had done the show, I found that there's a theory going around that the new Pinhead, she's female, could quite possibly be Kirsty Cotton from the original Hellraiser movie. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm not really surprised to see a rumor like that. For one, I've never read any of the comics, but from what I understand, in the comics continuation, she actually did take on the mantle of Pinhead.
Really?
As far as I know. I've never read it, but...
That could be a really, really interesting take on all of it.
It could. And if you take some of the later movies, like, I can't remember, maybe the fifth movie? No, maybe the sixth movie? I think it's the sixth movie that she comes back in. In a really bit part, and one that I think actually did a ton of disservice to the character. But given what happened to her and what she did in that film, like if they were to, take that as canon or something, then it could work, but I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah. I personally hope that they don't go that route. I would like this to just be its own thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
If they do, fine. It's not like I have a ton of faith in sequels, so.
Of course. So I thought that was interesting, especially since we had just talked about it last week. Let's see. One of my favorite horror series, The Conjuring. Big fan of that series. Anything that James Wan touches, basically. The Conjuring 4 is officially in development, and they are returning with their filmmaking team. So Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, they're coming back.
Man, what a fantastic duo.
Oh, I know.
They have such amazing on-screen chemistry. It is
absolutely.
I love those two in those roles.
Absolutely. No, it's definitely a role that they were, I don't want to say born to play, but they embody those characters so well.
Yeah. They make them believable and I don't know.
Likable,
for
sure.
But
I know I'll definitely be seeing Conjuring 4, even though 3 was kind of meh. It was okay.
I have not seen 3 yet.
It was okay compared to the first 2. It was. I like them enough that they carried the movie. Yeah. I'll put it that way. I don't know.
I could see that.
Continuing these stories, it's just so interesting to see these stories and these tales based off of real life situations. I mean, it's what the Warrens went through. So it's I don't know. I'll definitely go see it. Megan or M3gan M3gan, as we had talked about last week. Supposedly it's coming to theaters 1 week early. It is now set to come out January 13th. Oh no, it's now set to come out January 6th. Originally it was going to be set to release in theaters January 13th, but now they have released, or they're going to be releasing it a week early. Not for sure why.
Yeah, it's always weird to me when films get pushed up or back by a week. Usually that happens because they fear what it's going to be competing against.
I was just going to say that. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to be coming out that same week. Considering how it's one of the it's the second week, the beginning of the new year. Is that when the new Avatar is supposed to be coming out around and then?
Oh, I have no idea.
Anyway.
I think Avatar
Or is that
is
coming around on Christmas?
10 years too late, but I don't.
it's probably going to do huge when it comes out.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I think
it
they're
will.
re-releasing the first one again too.
Yeah,
with
they are.
new graphics and all that. Anyway, but so now we can see it earlier. But anyway, let's see what else. You've played the Silent Hill games.
Yes, I've played probably about half of them. Yeah.
Okay. Half of each one, or half of all of
them? I usually get a save file that starts about like a quarter of the way in, and then I play the middle part of each game.
Okay, so the middle part.
Yeah.
Just quarter 2 and 3, leave out 1 and 4, so you don't know what you're doing or how it ends.
Yeah.
Very
basically,
nice.
Yeah. No, seriously, I've played
M. Night Shyamalan your way through it.
I'm a big fan of the early games in the series. Silent Hill 2 is actually one of my favorite games of all time.
Okay.
So,
well, you're in luck, sir.
I know.
Because they are remaking Silent Hill 2, and it's in the advanced stage of development. Okay, so when they go and remake these, because I know they're remaking Last of Us or they already remade them all and all this.
Last of Us already got a remake, yeah.
Okay, so when they remake it, are they actually changing the storyline, or are they just updating the graphics? And
so typically these remakes have just been from the ground up remakes, just shot for shot. Kind of like one of the exceptions has been the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Okay.
But usually like when they remade the Shadow of the Colossus, that was just a straight remake. The Resident Evil games, I think those are just straight remakes. I could be wrong about that because I haven't played all the Resident Evil games, but as for this one, it looks like it's probably just going to be a faithful remake, but I mean, who knows? They might put their own spin on it. It's not actually Konami doing it. They farmed it out to another team.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks it doesn't look fantastic, but it looks good. I mean, we're talking about a PS2 game, I think it was.
Possibly. Yeah. I don't know. I know it was older.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but that's not all. There was a ton of Silent Hill news.
Okay.
Not just Silent Hill 2, because there's that one coming from Bloober Team, which they did. They've done the Layers of Fear games, and the Medium is probably the most popular recent one.
Okay.
And then there's another game coming out from Annapurna. There's 2 more games that we don't really know a lot about, other than one of them is like a social game that is gonna, you scare with each other. So I don't know if it's going to be like one of those.
Ooh, you scare with each other.
Yeah. I don't know. You know how there's a ton of those like ghost hunting games and stuff online that you can play against other players. Or with other players. I don't know if it's going to be something like that or what, but there's going to be some weird like Japanese set Silent Hill game. Don't really know anything about that. And then hopping back to movie news, the I believe writer and director of the first Silent Hill movie is actually coming back to adapt Silent Hill 2 into a movie. So
wow,
there was a ton of Silent Hill news that dropped with that.
I actually liked the first Silent Hill movie. I mean, it wasn't fantastic,
no,
but
it wasn't fantastic. But
but it was still kind of.
Yeah, and as a fan of the games, I thought they absolutely nailed the aesthetic. It was really, really cool to see that on the big screen. So,
and I like Sean Bean. So,
oh yeah. Now the second movie was terrible. The second movie was
I didn't even see the second one.
Yeah, the second movie was an adaptation of Silent Hill 3, a loose adaptation of Silent Hill 3.
Okay.
So the third movie is going to be a loose adaptation of Silent Hill 2. So, whatever.
Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Well, I got one last piece of movie news. If you are a fan of the Saw franchise, Tobin Bell will be returning to next year's brand new installment of Saw after the success of Spiral from the Book of Saw.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, did he leave? But I forgot he wasn't really in Spiral, was he?
Well, he was not in Spiral. He actually, he's coming back to play John Jigsaw Kramer, which
who died at the end of the third film.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And he's kind of been, like throwback or, callback scenes and stuff like that. About memories and whatnot. Anyway, he is coming back and he is supposed to be playing a big role in this new one. So that news just kind of came out today. It's going to be Saw 10. So this one is actually going to be an official Saw film. So
now, my question to you, Chris, is at what point did you check out of that franchise?
A little bit after Jigsaw left, after he died. I kind of, it was about,
Okay, so so
he gave 4 a try, and it was kind of,
and I mean, he didn't actually leave. He's been in every movie except for Spiral. Tobin Bell has been in every movie.
Yes.
But so that's probably good. I mean, I think 3 was pretty bad, but I did watch the 4th one, and then I was like, I'm done. So I haven't seen any of them after that.
I haven't seen any of them after that either. So I don't know. I may have to go back and watch the rest of them. I don't know. It might be one of those things where some weekend where I just have nothing else to do and want to subject myself to a bunch of it. But anyway, Saw 10, they're looking at a release for October 27th of next year. So, and it looks like the guy who is directing it did Saw 6 and Saw the final chapter. So...
Okay.
I don't know. So anyway, the ones that we said we haven't seen and the ones that we just didn't care for, he did those ones. So anyway, yay for us. So anyway, but anyway, that was that's what we got for movie news.
All right.
So Halloween ends. Here we go. Here we
go
into the review. Halloween, the original, one of the most iconic horror movies, I would have to say.
A classic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The original one was released in 1978, written by John Carpenter, directed by John Carpenter, scored by John Carpenter, brought Jamie Lee Curtis to the forefront. It
was her very first movie role, so introduced her to the world. She was
doing TV at the time, and then, like you said, introduced her to the world, which is kind of funny. Her mother was also a horror icon. Now her daughter, a horror icon, her mother being Janet Leigh from Psycho, in the shower and all that. The original to me is one of the perfect horror films.
Or at least very close. I could hear an argument for it being very near perfect. It holds up really well. It's a great
film. I went back and watched it again. To compare. I went through the Blumhouse series, which we'll get into here in a minute. And watched them all through back to back just to really get a feel for where this one sat in the mix.
The probably the only thing I would say that maybe doesn't quite hold up is I actually just think the acting, and it really has nothing specifically to do with any of the actors. It's like this 70s style 70s. Of acting.
The 70s. So. It was just very either over acting or I don't know, man. Yeah, because every era has their style. The 80s had their style for sure.
I feel like you can tell now that maybe a little bit more training goes into acting now.
I think they take I don't know. I don't want to say they take it more serious, but I think we've gone far enough away from the stage at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because when when films were first starting out, they were taking them directly from the stage. So when you did stage vaudeville, stuff like that, it was very, hey, look at me, type thing.
Yeah.
And you see that in early TV and in early films, and we've come to this place now where it's very serious. The art is serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, 70s was still this, hey, let's play around, type feel. Now taking it to the new ones, dark, sinister, just there's no playing around unless you're intentionally doing it. But the movie still holds up. It's still a great film.
That said, though, one thing that I think films of that era did capture, and that it's so obvious in Halloween, is this sense of dread.
Oh yeah.
I mean, especially and look, slashers. I've told you before, slashers are kind of like my least favorite. Subgenre within the horror genre, mainly because I don't really find them scary. But there's a really, really well done sense of dread in that original movie.
Oh yeah,
that I think is not well replicated today.
No, and it wasn't overly done either. It was menacing without this extreme amount of terror or gore.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of films now have to lean on gore due to the fact that we have become so desensitized to it.
Possibly.
Whereas back then it was less. It was a lot less. It was, I don't want to say more innocent time, but it kind of was. It was this point of where that kind of stuff wasn't on TV or wasn't in the films as much. I mean, Halloween was even pushing the boundaries with what they were doing, and if you were to compare the Halloween from then to the current run of Halloween, the Blumhouse run, they're two completely different aesthetic films based off of the amount of gore and violence. The other one was the other one was The Boogeyman. The original one was The Boogeyman, whereas the new
or as credited as The Shape.
The Shape, yes, which he was in even the new Blumhouse ones. So they don't refer to him as Michael Myers. He is known as The Shape.
Right.
But anyway, we keep mentioning the Blumhouse era of them. Blumhouse picked up the rights to them. I guess it's been 3 films now ago. Well,
4.
Ends,
because it was 2018.
Ends, Kills, and then Halloween. So Halloween, Kills, and then Ends. Hey, do you have bodies like hiding under the floor, or what is?
I do not. Why? What, do you hear something?
I heard, hey! Coming.
I don't think that was on my end.
Was it? Oh, maybe it was my end.
Maybe your room is haunted or something. I don't know.
Keep quiet. And they got out.
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, that's a trip. Anyway, so Blumhouse picked up the rights to them. Basically, before that was the Rob Zombie era. He did 2 of them, Halloween 1 and 2.
I hear there was supposed to be a third one that just never materialized.
Probably.
I've never seen either of those. I should point out, I've never seen either of his.
Both of them were more psychological.
Okay.
He did a good job. I mean, it was Rob Zombie. I mean, it's his style of movie for sure. But it was more psychological to me, more like a psychological thriller than it was like a slasher type film. And one of my good friends was in it, so I was like, "Yay, Bria!" She was in 2.
Okay.
So
I didn't realize she was in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then before that, of course, was, the films that even John Carpenter worked on, with, and I mean, he's worked on all of them, but, we have that whole period where they went through like H2O even 20 years later and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These Blumhouse ones follow directly after the original.
Yeah. Skipping even the original Halloween 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it goes from the original 1978 version to Halloween 2018. So 48 years later, 40 years later.
40
years later. I did not realize that H2O, the 20th anniversary one, where they did 20 years after, that one was done because Jamie Lee Curtis said that they should do it. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the reason why that one was done. But anyway, this one's set 40 years later after the original. We go back into finding Laurie Strode again. And she is, or Michael has gotten out, and he goes back to Haddonfield and wreaks havoc once again, just like he did in the original. The first two films both take place on that same Halloween night. I don't want to spend too much time on the first two, but I'm just
but I think it's important to set up and to mention that from what I understand, this third film was also supposed to take place on that same night originally.
Yeah, and then COVID happened.
Halloween ends, so
yeah. So the first two films were incredible. I really, really liked. I really, really liked Halloween. I thought that Halloween Kills upped the violence for sure. The kill count was just amazing.
I think Halloween 2018, I have problems with the story, but I really, really liked it.
It was really good.
I think it was very, very much up there with the original. It felt, of this entire Blumhouse trilogy, it felt the most like the original to me.
Yes. So
I loved the first one. Yeah. I thought it was great.
Yeah. So
the second one, Kills, I still liked, just not as much as the first one.
So in the 2018 version, Laurie Strode, a recluse. She had a daughter within the 40 years. She now has a granddaughter. Her daughter got taken away from her through child services, and because of the fact that they were living out in the middle of nowhere, she was teaching her daughter how to build traps, how to survive, all this sort of stuff. Basically, they did not feel like it was an ideal childhood. Daughter was taken away. She tries to live a normal life. Now she has a daughter. Laurie's still trying to deal with the fact of what had happened 40 years ago. In Halloween Kills, we see the daughter realizing that her mom isn't crazy ish. She's trying to help Laurie. The granddaughter's trying to help Laurie. They're going after Michael still. Laurie's hurt. She spends most of the time in the hospital.
Which, ironically, just like she did in the original second movie.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah.
That whole movie basically takes place. Not the whole movie, but it's basically takes place in the hospital.
Yeah, and the almost one of the main protagonists in that one is the granddaughter who's going after Michael while the daughter is at the hospital. And we see, what was his name? The kid from the first movie. I've completely spaced out on his name. Tommy?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think it was Tommy. I know people are yelling at me right now through the stream.
Yeah.
So, yeah, leave it in the comments. I'm going to kick myself afterwards, and I didn't write it down. Anyway, so he comes back, and he's trying to find Michael, take him out for Lori, because she protected him at one point, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he dies at the end. Spoiler. The daughter dies at the end.
Yeah.
So
okay. There are two things I do want to say before we jump into Halloween Ends.
Okay.
The first being that Halloween 2018 did not need a sequel. I don't think they had a sequel in mind. I think it could have ended right there. It would have been a perfect ending.
Oh yeah, would have been great.
But Hollywood being Hollywood, we got a sequel.
Yeah.
One thing, and I mentioned this to you earlier.
Trapped him in a fire. There was no possible way of getting out. But the way he did, I thought was kind of brilliant. I was like,
logically, of course, she should have actually made sure he was dead. But whatever, we'll skip that.
Just on the ashes.
One thing that I didn't realize, and I was telling you earlier, is the setup for the third movie didn't make a lot of sense to me, because the way I saw Halloween Kills end was with you see her daughter get killed, and then she calls, Michael picks up, and she's like, "I'm coming for you, Michael," and then she storms out of the hospital wielding a knife.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was the extended cut.
Oh yeah, and I definitely always try to watch an extended cut if I have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not realize that it changed the end as much as it did.
Yeah. Now, I still think that either way, I don't think the setup for the third movie makes much sense, but it almost is worse having seen the extended cut as opposed to just the theatrical release, which just ends with Lori looking out the hospital window. But whatever. I guess we'll get to that here.
I don't know. I think I would have been more mad with her just staring out the window. Just like,
I don't get me wrong. I think that's terrible. I think we definitely got the better ending.
Yeah.
Having watched the extended cut, but yeah, I also think that the setup of the third movie, the plot of the third movie, is almost made worse by that extended cut, in my opinion. But like I said, we'll get into that shortly. I don't know.
I'm interested to see I'm interested to see what you have to say about it. Anyway, happens 1 year later. So at the end of Kills, they do make it seem like she is going after Michael, or at least in the extended cut, she's going after him right then and there.
Yeah.
Somehow we're now 1 year later at one point. Okay. We're 1 year later.
At first,
and there's nothing with Lori. There's nothing.
No.
I mean, they mention Michael Myers at this point, but
is it happen in the radio intro? Does it happen? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he gets mentioned during the opening credits, which is like this radio. Which, by the way, I have to mention, I hated that opening. The opening credits.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So anyway,
now the new Blumhouse intro is cool. I just have to get that out of the way too.
Yeah. But okay, so 1 year later, the whole city seems as though they have forgotten what happened the year before. I know if that sort of massacre had happened in my town, where I live currently, Halloween closed the next year. We would not be going out trick-or-treating and all that sort of stuff. But they're all out there.
The entire town has forgotten. Similar to the way the writers apparently forgot.
Yeah. So anyway, they're just all like, "Oh, we're going out. We're gonna get candy and all that sort of stuff." So anyway, we meet some guy named Corey. Okay, Corey Don't know where he came from. He's
No.
new to the story. And you can tell by my tone of voice, I'm already happy with this movie. And he's babysitting that night, just like in the original ones. And he ends up babysitting some punk kid, which at first you think the kid's a delight. Then his parents leave. And then he becomes a complete little a-hole. And the kid locks Corey in the closet at one point, in the attic. Not in a closet, in the attic.
Yeah, it's like an attic type room. Not an attic with the pull down stairs.
Yeah, but it's just a doorway into the attic. It's like the third floor, just a room surrounded.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a huge house. The kid starts saying, Michael Myers is going to get you. Michael Myers is going to get you. He comes for babysitters, not for kids and all that sort of stuff. So Corey ends up kicking the door open, and it sends the kid falling from the third floor down to the ground right as the parents get home.
Yeah. Now, the parents walk in, and right after they walk in, they hear this Corey say, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Yeah.
And then splat.
Yeah. And big time splat. I mean, this was like way to start a movie. I mean, that was brutal right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, starting credits.
Yeah.
We're in the starting credits.
Now, the pumpkin opening here, the pumpkin opening is really cool because it's got like, a pumpkin and then there's a seed and another pumpkin grows and it bursts out of, and it keeps doing that over and over.
Yeah.
The credits is actually the same color and font of Halloween 3, which is the one-off movie that has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Okay.
So that was another big clue to me that I'm like,
that was
okay.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't even. I mean, I knew that it was close to the original ones, but I didn't realize it was the same as the third.
Yeah, it's the exact same font and color of the opening credits to the third movie.
So far, we still have no Michael. We still have no Laurie. Then they do a complete recap of all of the movies of the Blumhouse series and the original.
Yeah. Yep.
As though we've never seen any of these films. And it just goes on. And you're like, why does this happen? And then we start to see killings happening around the town. Just random killings. And there's someone being hung. And then there's a couple in a Jeep that was shot in the head. And then the cop is just like, Michael doesn't use guns.
Yeah. And I think I did like, because her narration at this point, because Laurie is narrating, you said it's a bit of a recap, and then she's kind of narrating what has happened the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's basically that, Michael hasn't been seen.
Yeah.
And that, but the effects of him being around are seen, because every time something bad happens, people are like, oh, is it Michael Myers? Is he back?
Yeah.
So that's the context of what's happening here. Yeah.
And so now we're 4 years later.
Yeah.
From
4 years after Kills, to be clear. It's 3 years after that.
3 years after. Prologue. Yes. Yeah. And she's writing a book.
Yeah. She celebrates Halloween.
And she's just moved on.
Comfortably.
She's moved on.
Now, to be clear, for 40 years, while Michael Myers was locked up,
yes,
she is almost this like deranged, insane hermit.
Catatonic, lifetime of agony.
Again, got her daughter taken away from her because she was battle training her.
Yep.
Now she knows that Michael Myers is actually out there somewhere.
Yep.
And we're moving on.
I'm gonna bake a pie.
Over it.
I'm gonna bake a pie. Yeah. And we
live
in
that's what we do now.
We live in the suburbs. And her granddaughter's living with her. And they're all fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. It's fine. It's all fine.
That was so weird. to me.
That was so messed up, man.
I don't know. Now the only thing that I could and this may be a stretch on trying to give the writers some sort of credit. Is she doing this for her granddaughter's sake, who has lost her father and her mother, trying to give her some semblance of a normal life? But after that much trauma, how can you just switch it off?
Yeah. And possibly the town, too. Maybe she's trying to help the town, too, because she knows firsthand what the... she saw... Because of what happened in Kills, she saw firsthand how this infectious evil can affect the town.
Yes.
So, yes, I guess if we are trying to throw a bone to the writers... then it can make sense.
I don't know. I'm going to give you all three of my chins on this one and just be like, I don't know. I don't know. It was almost too, it was just weird. It was like they totally, it was like they started a whole new movie or a whole new series. It was just odd. It did not fit. The vibe was completely different.
Now, not to be too spoilery on my thoughts, but that's kind of how I felt a lot of the way through this movie. There were points, we talked about Hellraiser last week and how some of the later films in that series weren't even originally supposed to be Hellraiser movies. They just kind of had Hellraiser, kind of written into them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of points throughout this movie where that's how I felt about this.
Oh, yeah.
This was a movie that had Halloween written into it.
Exactly. And we only see Michael Myers or the Shape for just a few minutes in this movie. Yeah. Very, very minimal in it.
I wish I would have thought to do a running tally of them, but I didn't know at the time. But
exactly.
Again, we'll get there.
I had hopes. So anyway, this Corey kid, we're now on to a new scene. Jamie Lee Curtis has burned a pie, and she's like, it's fine. Whatever. Okay. So now they go on to a new scene. Okay, so Corey goes to work, this kid. It's now years later. And he shows up, he's late for work, and his boss just gives him some busted up motorcycle at the junkyard. And you're like, I don't understand why he's giving him a bike or a motorcycle. And he's just like, now you can get to work on time. And you're just like, oh, okay. And then that's really it. That's all we get from that scene. There's no explanation of anything else. And then we see next scene is just like this drain hole under a bridge, some homeless guy walking by. And then you hear the Halloween theme music, the piano in slow motion. Yeah. It's like slowed down.
And it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But then no, we don't go.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, what's the deal with this thing? So anyway. Oh yeah, it's because Corey was riding over an overpass or a bridge on his bike. Oh, yeah. That's right. He's going to a gas station. Yeah. Because he just showed up to work and now he's going to a gas station.
Yeah.
So he goes to the gas station. There's some high school seniors there. They're like, hey, man, I forgot my ID. He's like, can you buy us beer? Can you buy us? And he's like, no. And they're band geeks, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
First off.
Band geeks?
These band geeks, these are like the worst band geeks I've ever met in my life. I know band geeks. That's not the type. Anyway.
Well, and I don't even know what the jock of the band geeks, I guess.
Yeah, he's like a half popular.
He's like a half a head shorter than Corey, is it?
Yeah.
Corey. He's like a half a head shorter and he's this skinny, scrawny little dude.
Yeah.
Like,
they're in Illinois, and he has a New Jersey accent. I also, I'm very big into accents, and that one didn't fit. Yeah. You can really tell how much I love this movie. Anyway, so he won't buy him beer, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, we recognize you. We know who you are," and they start bullying him and like beating him and pushing him to the ground and all this sort of stuff. And they're like, "You're a pedophile and blah blah blah, pedo, and you kill little kids and all this sort of stuff." And then all of a sudden, Laurie steps in.
Yeah.
And she tells them to like beat it. Basically, they're like, "Oh, the freak and the what was it? The freak and the maniac, freak and the crazy, or something like that."
Yeah, something like that.
I didn't care.
This is the first instance we get that the town. We'll get more of this later. The town really is not a big fan of Laurie.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we actually like really see that.
Yeah. But. And then he's like, "Yeah, I just." I wouldn't buy him beer, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, "Oh, well, you need to like basically stand up for yourself," type thing. And she gives him a knife and she's like, "Pop their tires."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, vengeance," it's like, get back at him,
Yeah.
So then, he's beat up, he's hurt and all this sort of stuff.
He cut himself on like I don't know, the bottle or something. So he's got a pretty deep gash.
They beat him. They cut him on the box. The Cenobites came in. So then Laurie takes Corey to the clinic where Allison works, the granddaughter.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Allison is like, "Ooh, she's got the hots for this guy."
Oh, quickly. Yeah. It's a love at first sight. They imprinted on each other type thing.
Yeah. They're going to have wolf babies. Like werewolf babies and vampire babies, and
I hate that. I hate that you automatically knew the reference.
Oh, don't worry, because more of that comes up later.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in my notes, sir. It's in my notes. Yeah. So, so this relationship, it's weirdly fast. Like she's just all over this guy, and. First off, don't know why. I mean, I guess I'm not the best one to judge, but I'm just like, anyway, so she's very into him. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So then the next scene, Laurie, Allison, the granddaughter, and Lindsay, who was the girl from the original film, the original Halloween, who was in Kills with Tommy. She's over at the house doing tarot cards while Laurie is cooking dinner for everybody and all this. And they are encouraging Allison to go for Corey. They're like, you should go out with him. You should give him a chance after your ex-cop boyfriend or your ex-boyfriend or cop ex-boyfriend, whatever. Anyway, after he broke up or you broke up with him and all this sort of stuff. So she's like, I don't know. Oh.
And that's a good point. It's very awkwardly mentioned just so that character can appear later. So it's the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah. So quickly that scene's over, and now we're over at Corey's house for a very, very awkward family dinner. His mom is super overbearing.
Yeah.
Allison texts Corey. She's like, "Hey, we should go to a party. I've got a costume for you." And the mom's like, "Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Who is it?" And he's like, "It's nobody, Mom." And she's like, "It's somebody texting. Why are you getting a text? Is it a girl? Is it a goyle? Is it a goyle?" And then she just starts like freaking out.
And this part confused me too, because the his boss from the junkyard is there. And I'm like, I'm like, wait. Oh, so
why
is there
the boss there?
Are they dating? I guess it's like his stepdad.
Yeah, it's his dad.
They don't make that clear.
Yeah,
in this scene, I didn't find that out until later. I was like, I guess
they say it in that scene. He says something about.
Did they?
Yeah,
I must have missed it.
He says something about him being his dad, and I'm like,
oh, I must have totally missed that.
I'm like, oh, that's who that guy was that gave him the motorcycle. Oh,
because there is weird. No indication whatsoever when he's like, "You're late. You're late.
Not
Here's
at all.
the spike."
Not at all. So
Okay.
yeah, he's like, don't tell your mom that I gave you the bike.
Yeah.
You know, because she'd flip out about that. So anyway, I guess Allison's car, it's like having some issues with the exhaust and the muffler. So she takes it to Corey's work to get her car fixed by Corey.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he's showing her how to ride his motorcycle. And they're like on the bike, and he's like, yeah, this is what you do. And he's like behind her, you know, like Ghost. You know, they're working the clay and all that sort of stuff. And then Jock, band geek.
Yeah, band Jock shows up.
Short guy shows up with his dad in his car. And then nothing. And then nothing. Well, I mean, Allison makes a big time move on Corey. She's like, oh, I didn't really come for my car. I came for you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, okay. And then that's it. New scene.
That's it. Okay.
And I'm like, okay. And then next thing you know, we're at the grocery store with Lori, and she's pushing her cart around. And then there's Frank. Hey, Frank. We haven't seen you yet. You know, the sheriff's deputy who got really injured in the first movie, we thought was dead, came back to life in the second one.
There's going to be that's not the first time this happens in this movie either. So
exactly.
I'm sorry, it is the first time. It's not the last time.
Yeah. So they're at the grocery store, and while a Muzak version of "Don't Fear the Reaper" is playing overhead, slowly in like, and then they're like, he's like, oh, how's Allison? And she's like, oh, she's, you know, I'm trying to get her to hook up with Corey. And he's like, oh, Corey's a good boy. Corey's a good boy. How does everybody know Corey? Because like at one point nobody knew Corey, and then everybody knows Corey.
Honestly, I'm guessing small town, and he
maybe
killed the kid.
He killed the kid.
You know, so he's famous and
well,
and you know what? This kind of does come up a little later, because later in the movie, Lori does visit Corey's mom, and the mom is like, your boogeyman disappeared, so the town needed another one.
Yeah.
So that's why everybody knows Corey, because everybody hates him, because they think he murdered the kid.
Yeah. So Lori and Frank have this awkward conversation. Frank says something about wanting to take her to go see some like cherry blossoms in Japan or something like that. And blah, blah, blah. He's like making moves on her. So she buys her groceries. They have this awkward goodbye, and she's basically, I love you type thing. But he's like, what? And he's like, oh, I don't know. So she leaves in a huff. I don't even think she took her groceries. I don't remember. I don't think she paid for them, but she just walks out. I know that. She goes out into the parking lot, and there's some lady there pushing some lady in a wheelchair. And she basically gets harassed by her saying, you did this because of your Michael Myers, your boogeyman is the reason why all these people died. You provoked him.
Yeah.
I know I'm talking a whole lot, but I'm just trying to get the story to where something.
Well, the lady in the wheelchair, is the lady from the second film who had that tube light shoved into her throat.
Is that who that was?
Yeah. Yeah, because her and her husband are home.
Who she was.
They're flying the drone, remember? Yeah, and then Michael Myers is in their house. He attacks and kills the husband. That's her. That's that her? Lady. She has the scar. She has the scar on her neck.
Oh man!
So that's what I'm talking about.
I didn't even.
She's like, oh, I guess she's alive.
I didn't even pick up on that. I'm like trying to figure out. I'm like, who is this lady? And because I don't know. Whatever.
Yep.
So anyway, she had that fluorescent bulb tube.
Yeah.
In her throat.
Yeah, jammed right through her throat.
Yeah, and then twisted. Oh, that was kills was
a brutal one.
I mean, there was a lot of kills in that one.
But she somehow survived it. So
yeah. So we then again see how much the town hates Lori. Says it's her fault for bringing Michael Myers there. like it was originally her problem, but it wasn't. It's almost like that thing where, you know, people say, oh, she had it coming because her skirt was short. It's those same people.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then Corey and Allison, they go to some costume party. That's the next scene. This movie, and it might seem like we're going into this and we're just jumping and missing things. We're not. This is
or it might seem like we're covering every scene, but it's like they jump so much and kind of like important things. There's a lot of things where like there's one really minuscule important thing happens in a scene.
Exactly.
You know, but
yeah, and we almost have to go scene by scene because otherwise, and I don't want to say every scene's important. It's just like they just leave one little piece of information laying about. So anyway, they go to the costume party. You can see that Corey definitely doesn't get out much. He ends up running into the mom. I don't know why the mom of the kid who died was there at the party. I don't get it. I thought it was for high school seniors. But the mom's there drinking, it looks like. And she ends up flipping out on Corey. Like, just like, I can't believe you're out here. You look like you're having fun when my son will never have fun ever again. Type thing.
Well, isn't this a bar? None of them are in high school anymore.
Are they not?
Because this is 4 years later, right? So they're all out.
They are in college, aren't they? Yeah.
Allison is working as a nurse, right?
That's right.
And that's the whole thing where like the kids at the beginning were trying to get Corey to buy him beer because he's of drinking age.
Yeah. And have we?
So
yeah, and he's of course. Okay, so they're at a bar. There you go.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense to me now.
It's a pretty crazy bar, but whatever.
Yeah, it was. So anyway, he then leaves and he's all like upset and he's like, this is why I don't go out. He's yelling at Allison. Yeah. He's like, this is why I don't go out. He's like, he goes, you can't fix me. I'll spare you the heartache. And he leaves her. Leaves her there. So he's walking home at this point. And
back across the bridge.
Back across that same bridge. And guess who shows up? Tiny flute player and the rest of his band of merry men. He plays the skin flute.
And women.
Yeah. Anyway, they beat the crap out of Corey and throw him off the bridge. Now, this is a good probably 60-foot drop.
Yeah.
On that bridge. They show it. Don't see how he didn't break something or die. But they threw him off the bridge. The homeless man that we saw earlier looks and he sees Corey laying there, and back behind the homeless man, I think it was this side, you see Michael Myers for the first time. You see his mask in the shadows. Just kind of standing back there. Which, by the way, a little bit of
really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
all I saw was Corey's body get dragged away.
He's back behind the homeless man, standing back there.
Wow. I totally missed that. Okay.
Yeah, which mask? A little bit of trivia. Do you know what the mask actually was? That original mask from Halloween, the original film. They needed a mask for the film, and he told the production guys, I need a mask for a boogeyman. So they went out and bought a mask, and the only thing that was left at that store was a Captain Kirk mask. That is the original Michael Myers mask. Is a Captain Kirk mask. I'm not lying about that. It's Captain Kirk.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an odd looking Kirk, but whatever.
It was the 70s, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, we see him living amongst the homeless, and he drags Corey off because he's
into the
sewer, where he becomes Pennywise, the clown from It.
Yeah.
And they all float down there. Corey wakes up. He's freaking out, doesn't know where he's at. He tries to run out of the sewers, and Michael reaches through a wall and grabs him and starts beating him up, choking him, and then this just gets so bad. It gets
a look
so
of
bad.
love.
It gets so bad.
They lock eyes.
Oh,
they lock eyes, and you see
Michael's.
There's a whole bunch of flashbacks. Is he seeing? Do we see flashbacks of the kid at the beginning of the movie dying? Is that what we see?
Yes.
Or
it's like he is seeing what Corey has done.
Yeah.
Like, at first, when he's looking into his eyes, he can see his own reflection like he was looking into the window of the original films.
Oh, yeah.
So he sees his own face in Corey's eyes, and then he starts seeing all of the memories of Corey. And I'm like, what did we just step into?
And I hate to inform anyone watching, listening. We never find out. There is no explanation for what actually happens here. I'm like, does he just see a darkness in him? Is this some sort of supernatural transfer?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now,
take your pick. Just guess, because
now we have a Michael Myers who has not made a sound in how many movies at this point? A bunch.
This is the 13th film, right?
Okay. He screams. Michael Myers screams and lets Corey go. That was not,
is that Michael?
Is that Michael who screamed. That was not Corey, because Corey's being choked. He can't make any sound.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Michael,
that makes sense.
Michael screams.
I didn't even catch that.
Lets go of Corey and curls up into a fetal position in the sewers. This is a brutal killer. If you've seen Kills, this guy does not play around. He is on the ground crying in a fetal position.
And
we have lost it at this point.
Was it in Kills where Laurie is like, the more he kills, the more he transcends? I think it was in Kills.
Because it's basically like, it's almost like he becomes inhuman the more he can kill.
And we'll come back to that in this movie here in not too long. But
will we?
But it's like, oh yeah, we will. There's a scene that I think still plays into that, and it makes what I'm about to say even worse. At the end of Kills, he went on this brutal rampage. How did that not power him up or whatever?
Yeah.
Why did he go into hiding for 4 years? It makes no sense at all.
It doesn't. It made absolutely no sense. I mean, that dude was like jacked up on bloodlust, and and then nothing, zero, living with homeless people in a sewer.
Yeah. And the homeless people know who he is.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Because Corey goes out, he escapes, and that homeless guy you were just talking about grabs him and like kind of starts going crazy on him.
Yeah, he's like, why did he let you live? He doesn't let anybody live. He drags people down into this hole all the time, and he let you live. What happened? Why? Yeah. And then the old guy pulls a knife on Corey, and then Corey takes the knife and ends up stabbing the old man, and then throws the knife and
stabs him several times.
Oh yeah,
by the way. So it's not like a self-defense thing.
Yeah, many times. Kills the guy big time.
Yeah.
So then Corey goes.
So
well, go ahead.
Here's the point where I'm like, I see where this movie is going. Corey is going to be the new Shape. So let's go from there.
Yeah.
So anyway,
for some reason, Michael Myers just doesn't have the balls anymore.
Yeah.
And somebody else has got to take over. Oh, my word.
Which, now, to be fair...
Is there a to be fair, though? Is there a to be
I don't think... I don't think the idea is a terrible concept because, logically speaking, we are talking about as far as we know, a mortal who is eventually going to die of old age.
Yes. And we even get into that a little bit later. That is explained. What your theory was just right there, plus about the shape thing, which Laurie says it flat out later. But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
There's a quote. Yeah. So anyway, Corey goes home. He's covered in blood. And we see the darkness start to creep in. He's now starting to like it. But he's scared. So he drives over to Laurie to see Allison.
Yeah. Laurie first sees him. He's like standing halfway hidden behind the bush. Right. So he's got that Michael Myers like pose, so it's very much setting up. This dude is going to be the new Shape.
Yeah. So something's off, and Laurie senses the darkness in him. Then all of a sudden, they go on a walk, Allison and Corey, and he just goes, "I killed somebody."
Yeah.
And she's just like, "Okay."
Huh.
Yeah.
And
takes his hand, and they walk together.
And again, trying to give the movie a little bit of a benefit of a doubt.
I cried over and over and over.
Maybe Allison takes this to mean that he's talking about the kid. Right? I killed someone. Maybe she thinks he's talking about the kid.
Maybe.
But since the conversation basically goes nowhere from there, we don't know.
Yeah. So next thing you know, they're breaking into a house. Turns out to be the house that he was babysitting the kid in. Which is oddly abandoned as well.
It's abandoned now. It has never been cleaned.
Yeah. It's like everything was before. It's like the kid fell. The parents just moved, left everything.
Yeah.
And anyway, Allison says that she feels as though they have been brought together. It's like fate, which, we see at the beginning of. Was it this movie where she's sitting in no, it was in Kills where she's sitting in the class and we see it's almost an exact reflection of, no, it wasn't Kills. It was the original Halloween. I mean, not the original. It was the Halloween. It's the 2018
Halloween.
2018. Yeah. Okay. Where it's almost scene for scene where we see her sitting in the college classroom and they're talking about fate. Which in the original 1978 version, they were talking about the exact same thing in the exact same classroom. She looks up, she sees Michael outside. When Allison looks out the window, she sees Laurie standing out there.
Yeah.
They're both talking about fate.
Yeah.
So she's basically saying that fate has basically brought them together.
Yeah.
Okay. So now she's just like, this is meant to be. You're a psycho killer. I'm someone who survived psycho killers, but you know what? Screw this town, whatever. So, because, they hate everybody,
Well, she's like, she just wants to burn it all to the ground. And Corey says, I'll light the match.
Yeah.
Okay. You're starting a little unhinged there, bud. But
so Laurie goes over to Corey's house, tells the mom, I don't want her around Corey. They're like,
this is the scene I mentioned earlier.
Corey's a good boy, blah, blah, blah. He just gets a bad rap, whatever. Next thing you know, Corey has a set of balls on him, which he didn't have before. He'll burn the whole town down if she asks for it. If it wasn't for his mama's house, that's a country song reference.
Okay.
The ex-cop boyfriend shows up while they're eating waffles, and Corey just goes off on the cop because the cop's kind of like hitting on Allison again.
And the cop he's harassing.
Oh yeah,
Allison.
Oh yeah,
he's absolutely harassing Allison.
That guy's an a-hole. So it just cop provokes Corey, and the cop basically backs off after Corey stands up to him. She says, yeah, burn it down. He says, I'll light the match, which you said. And then she jumps onto the back of his motorcycle, and the movie becomes Twilight at this point. It really...
I see what you're talking about.
It really does. She's like... He's like, I'll burn this whole place down. And then they're just riding off, and she lays her head on his back, and they're right. She's holding on to him, and I'm like, what am I watching? What is this? This is not the follow-up to the last two movies, that were just... Anyway, Corey goes back under the bridge on his motorcycle, and the ex-cop boyfriend follows him.
Yeah.
The cop finds the body of the old homeless man, and Corey attacks the cop and then runs off into the sewer pipe laughing. And he takes off into it. And it really was. It was like this, like he's skipping and tra-la-la. Goes into there. And then Corey and Michael then proceed to run a train on this cop and just beat him up. And
well,
beat him up.
Sort of.
Beat him up is a bad way of saying it. They're beating him up. But then
I mean,
Corey yells at Michael. Then he gets up in Michael's face. This is what I love. This killer who's like, he won't even let anybody talk. Corey gets up in Michael's face. Let's see. Michael's up here. Corey's like down here. And he just yells at him. Like, you've got to show me how to kill him like you do.
Yeah. Show me how to do it.
Yeah. Show me how to do it.
I forget, does he say that to Michael before or after Michael got totally flattened out by this cop? That was
Michael Myers. That was after.
Michael Myers gets flattened to the ground by this cop.
Okay.
Right.
So then Corey says, you've got to show me to do it like you do. And Corey holds the cop as Michael kills him. And he's just holding him.
No. And this is the point I was talking about earlier, that where they kind of go into the whole he transcends thing, because Michael stabs the cop and then he kind of has this like almost seizure, right? He shakes a bit and then he keeps stabbing him more. So I'm like, so this is where I switched to gears. Because at first I was like, well, wait a minute. At first I thought maybe that they were setting Corey up to become the Shape. And now I'm thinking, well, no, wait a minute. Is he going to use Corey to basically bring him victims? Because he needs that now for some reason.
It could have
Even though he never had any problems getting his own victims before.
It could have gone a very, very interesting direction. I'm really glad that they chose not to go that way. Not in anywhere close to interesting. At this point, I'm expecting a Mr. Miyagi training montage. With the music and everything, and like the stabbing, and they're like, going into it. It's like, you're the best around, the whole thing. That's what I'm expecting in the sewers. Okay. Corey immediately just runs to Allison's house. Like, wee, look what I did. He's like, I'm scared of what I'm becoming. And Allison's like, I'm loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. And, so Lori's not at home. She pulls up into the driveway and she sees Allison and Corey going up to Allison's bedroom.
Yeah, she sees Allison from outside. She can see through the window. She sees Allison leading them up the stairs.
And so she's staring into the house like, oh, what's going on? And Michael's standing back watching Lori watching them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yep. Michael's like a proud parent at this point. He's like, here goes my baby bird, my baby boy. He's going off like a baby bird flying for the first time out of the nest. Whatever. So Lori then proceeds to tell Lindsay
at the bar, who I guess she's the bartender, right? Lindsay's the bartender.
I guess she wasn't in Kills.
Yeah,
but she is now. So I guess this is 4 years later, or 3 years. Yeah, 4 years later. So anyway, Laurie tells Lindsay she sees Michael's eyes in Corey.
Yeah.
And that's really all that we
Yeah.
get from that scene.
Well, no, because Lindsay was like, I want you to, there's someone who'd like to talk to you or something like that. She takes him over to see the father of the kid that was killed at the beginning.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Because the father, it seems pretty clear that the parents of the kid are not together anymore.
Yeah.
And the father was like, he was mad because everybody hated Corey, and it was like they were co-opting his grief. It was his grief, and the whole town was taking it from him to use for their own ends, right? And he's like, I wanted to forgive him, and but then this is when we get the thing where the dad's like, I saw him walking, I pulled up to him, and I was gonna say something to him, but then I looked into his eyes, and it wasn't him.
Yeah, he was different. He was almost possessed. Yeah. So we get that information. He's at the bar.
Yeah.
They're talking about it. So next scene, we see Allison's boss. He's banging her coworker who got the promotion over her, because now Allison's really, really mad. She got passed over for a promotion that this other girl got, but she's banging the boss.
Now I have to ask you, because I need to know if I missed this. Does Allison mention this to Corey? That she thinks she got passed over for the promotion?
She says something about a promotion, but she basically says she has ideas. She has these things that, when she's saying about she has the town that she wants to burn down. She wants to burn everything down. I'm pretty sure the conversation goes on after that. These are where I want to start type things.
Okay.
So I think it's more so inferred as opposed to...
Okay, because this next scene, I didn't understand the motivation, because there becomes a clear motivation behind Corey's targets. Let's just, we'll get this out of the way. He starts targeting, and there's a clear motivation behind it, but I'm like, well, what made him go after the doctor and this nurse?
Yeah.
I don't...
Yeah, so it was clearly for her, because they go in... Corey goes in, he kills the doctor, and then he's wearing the mask that he was wearing at the costume party. And Michael comes and steps in, and he kills the girl who was the co-worker. Nurse, and there's this weird telekinetic connection with Michael as the killing's happening.
Yep.
Next thing you know, Allison is riding on the back of Corey's bike again, and she's giving that loving smile like everything that he just did was for her. So I would go as far as to say that she was even there waiting for him, almost, because I mean, you could almost say she was like waiting outside while he was going and doing this. I'm not saying that that's what happened. Just saying,
no,
it could have been that much. She's basically telling him what to do.
Yeah.
So basically, it's just them in the world type conversation. Everybody's out. Everybody's against them. They're up on top of the roof of the radio station in town. They have this conversation. Basically, they'll just get out of there. Let's just get out of town type thing. Corey then is like, I could do anything when I'm with you or whatever. And he talks about dying, or what if I jump off this roof or whatever. And then he does. He jumps off the roof, but lands on a ledge and drops down and everything. He ends up falling to the ground flat out. He's down on his back, and he does the Michael whoop sit up. I mean, straight up just.
Yep. Sure does.
She then immediately agrees to run away with him. Yeah. And Laurie is watching them from across the street in her car, watching, waiting.
It's not creepy at all.
No. She has nothing else to do. She's burned all of her pies. She's written enough of her book, but
Corey does see her. He does see Laurie.
Does he see her at this point? Mm-hmm. I don't even remember. At this point, I'm just like, I want to rip my eyes out,
Yeah.
gouge my eyes out. Anyway,
Then this is the because right before this happens, the radio station owner comes out and confronts them basically because he hears them, and again we get another thing where it's the town basically blaming Laurie for everything because the radio station guy is like, I know the Laurie Strode story. Yeah. She teased a man with brain damage and then he snapped.
Yeah.
So again, they're all blaming her.
Yep.
So
at this point, I just gave up on actual facts and just started writing down the crap that was left.
Yeah. Well, hey, it took us 40 minutes to get our first on-screen appearance of Michael Myers. And now it is finally Halloween, October 31st.
Yes. So he ends up going home. Corey does. Mommy Dearest yells at him. He leaves. He leaves and runs off. He ran away from home. He's sleeping. He's sleeping at the abandoned house that he had, killed the kid in.
Well,
did I miss something?
More specifically? Okay, so now it's Halloween
on the blood spot.
On the blood spot.
Yes. Yeah, he's laying where the kid landed. Or sleeping there. Yeah. And then Laurie's there. And she confronts him, basically saying, there's two types of evil, the evil inside of us, and, there's the evil outside and the evil inside of us, and I can help you and all that sort of stuff. But stay away from Allison. It was more so that I'll help you, but stay away from her. And then he says the worst line ever to be written on film. If I can't have her, no one will.
I literally rolled my eyes at that.
I
was like,
almost wanted to stop taking notes.
Yeah.
Of course. I don't know if you've caught on yet how much I loved this movie. I
said on Twitter that my feelings about this movie are as convoluted as the Halloween franchise timeline.
Yeah.
I'll explain that when we're done with the recap.
Oh my word. So
it sounds like your feelings are not very complicated. No, okay. Anyway, go on.
Laurie says you got to surrender to the feeling when you first looked into his eyes. She's basically like, and he's just like, I can't help it, blah, 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 blah. And he says something to her and he turns around and she's gone, like Michael disappears.
Yeah.
She's just gone. Corey then runs to Allison again, says Laurie's trying to kill him. And he goes straight to Michael in the sewers and beats him up, throws him to the ground, and steals his mask.
Is this where that happens?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Just
okay.
Lays him out, punches him.
He runs in there. He's like, you have something I need or something like that.
And just steals the mask. Then Laurie and Alice.
And then Michael does his sit-up.
Oh, yeah. And then Michael does the sit-up. But still to the point where he's far enough down the tunnel where you don't see his full face.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. Next scene. I mean, these scenes are maybe like 2 minutes long. It's just like boom, 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 boom. Scenes.
Yeah.
Laurie and Allison are then arguing about Corey. Laurie says he's on a dark path. And basically, she's just like, I'm disappointed, blah, blah, blah. And this is the point where we see that Laurie is nothing like what we saw in the first 3 movies. She's just this, I'm so afraid that blah, 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 and you need to just, it was so far of a departure for Laurie. I was so disappointed. So now we're back at the gas station. And what was the word that he scratched into? Corey has scratched some sort of word into the roof or into the hood of Band Jock Geek.
Yeah, Band Jock's car. I don't remember. I didn't write it down.
Anyway, and he leads them to the junkyard where he works at.
Yeah.
where I guess his dad is spending all night at the junkyard guarding it.
Yeah.
Not well, because murders happen, many murders.
Yes.
And during this altercation where he ends up taking out, after he takes out 3 of them, the kid, the main jock kid, shoots Corey's dad.
Yeah.
On accident.
It's an accident.
It is. I don't know why.
Well, at this point, it looks like he's taken out 3 of them, but he does technically has only taken out 2.
You're correct. The one girl that he ran over and is under the fence, she's still not dead.
Yeah.
And I do have to say that this was the most creative death at this point, where Corey ends up taking the welder, because I guess he's a welder, and ends up like shoving it into the mouth of the band jock geek kid and just lights him up.
As far as we can tell, because they shot this scene so that you see band jock is in front, and so he's getting the blowtorch. Yeah. Behind him is the other chick trapped under the fence, and that's where the camera focus goes. So in front, everything is blurred, so you don't.
I saw his mouth open, and I just saw and it was going into his mouth.
But my point is, you don't really see it. It's all blurred out as the focus shifts.
I'm so mentally deranged. I saw it. Corey then goes home and takes out his mom. And then he goes to the radio station because those people made fun of him. He takes out the hottest chick in the whole movie, which was the the receptionist at the radio station, which was in the movie for maybe 5 seconds.
This scene, right?
Yeah. And she was hot. Just kills her. And then he ends up cutting off the tongue of the radio DJ and kills him. And we're on a spree now at this point. So then Allison...
Well, we were on a spree because at this point the spree is basically over, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nobody left, really, at this point. So
so to go back what I was referencing earlier, he's clearly, his targets are the people who wronged him or wronged.
Yeah.
I guess in the case of the doctor and the nurse, who wronged Allison.
Yeah.
Who I guess by transference wronged him, you know, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she said, I want to burn the whole town down, and I'm sure that's where she's like, that was my town. So Allison then goes to Corey's parents' place to meet him because they're going to run off together after some scene where she had gone to like some diner or somewhere and he doesn't show up. Because
earlier when Laurie and Allison were arguing, Allison blames Laurie for everything and then storms off and leaves.
Yeah.
Well, now,
So Allison goes to Corey's parents to meet him, but he's gone now to try to take out Laurie. Yeah. But Laurie makes a call to the police department saying she's going to commit suicide. Because at this point, with how this movie has gone, you could almost see that Laurie, with the way that it's being written, that Laurie's like, I've lost everything. I'm just going to kill myself. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh my word. Are we really? We've lost the badass Laurie. We've lost everything. And so you see the door kind of close and then bang, gun goes off. And Corey busts into the room and she's like, I'm here, mother lover. And
she's pointing the gun at him and she's like, did you really think I'd kill myself?
Yeah.
Now, Chris, this scene bothers me. And it's not just because
finally we got to a scene that bothers you. Okay.
No, there have been many. But okay, I want you to think about this from like a filmmaking standpoint. Okay, so we get this whole setup where, Laurie's she calls in the suicide and she pulls out the gun and then you hear the gunshot. This is a pretty long scene. It's not a short scene, right?
Yeah.
So then Corey comes in and he's got the Michael Myers mask on.
Yeah.
And when he comes in and Laurie's pointing the gun at him and says, "You really think I'd kill myself?" That tells me that all that preamble with her pulling out the gun and calling 911 or whatever, that was all a show.
Yeah.
Okay. But the thing is, did she really think that he was just standing there the whole time? And no, this was a show
for
the viewer.
Yeah.
It was a show for the viewer.
Yeah.
So that we as the audience would get that fake out moment and be like, it makes no sense whatsoever in the context of Corey being there.
Correct.
It's
correct.
It's like,
it was a complete red herring just for us.
Yeah, just for us.
Yeah. No.
She might as well have, like, okay, so when he walks in, I guess technically she is looking at the camera, because this is like the only time I think we get that classic perspective, right, shot of the Michael Myers perspective where he's walking, except for it's Corey.
Yeah.
And so since she's pointing right at him, she's pointing right at the camera.
Yeah.
I honestly, at that point, I would not have surprised me at all if while she's looking at the camera saying, "You really think I'd kill myself?" she would have went,
yeah. Gave the big wink.
By the way, I just winked. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. I just like, ugh.
Yeah. So, she ends up shooting Corey, and
but it's all fine.
Fine. It's fine. They're still having a fight and all this sort of stuff. Well, he has the knife and all that sort of stuff, and he hears Allison's car pull up because he knows the sound of her car because of that clank, 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 clank that he never got around to fixing. And right before she walks in the door, he stabs himself to the point of no return, making it look like Laurie had done it because Laurie's grabbing the knife.
So first, though, he says half of that worst line ever written.
Yeah.
If I can't have her.
And then stab her.
And then he stabs himself.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, but if you're dead, then literally anybody else can have her.
Anybody else can have her. So, yeah. If you can't have her, everybody else can, I guess. So then Allison leaves. She's like,
again,
I can't believe it's not butter. And then, but Laurie's not alone. Michael's there. And somehow he and Corey fight when Corey's dead, but not.
Yeah. Corey wakes up for one last.
Yeah. Grabs him. He's like, no, you're not going to kill Laurie after whatever. And Michael ends up winning, of course, takes his mask back. Now it's just Laurie and Michael.
Oh, and look. Now it's the movie that everyone was promised in the marketing.
Yeah. What, we're at the last 5 minutes now?
Last 20 minutes or something. I don't even know.
So Laurie and Michael are fighting. Of course, we get the knitting needle throwback from the original movie.
Yeah. That was clever. I did like that.
She pulls out her knitting needle. Then she ends up stabbing him in the hand with a knife. Then she takes a frying pan and hammers his hands into the butcher block, countertop, table, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
He's sprawled out, and she drops a fridge on him to hold him down. Yeah. I'm like, that's pretty sweet. She then
because she has stabbed him in both hands so that it basically pins him to the
and then hammered him in. He's got one hand up, one hand down.
Yeah.
Then she stabs him and then demasks him.
Yeah.
And then she slits his throat.
Yeah.
And then he grabs her by the throat.
Somehow he still managed
He's holding on, and she's like, do it, and all this.
Yeah. And to be clear, he basically rips his hand out of the knife.
In half.
And and then still with this torn to shreds here.
Yeah.
He still grabs and chokes her.
Well, if anybody's seen Men, they know that it still can work.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Leonard Nimoy. But he grabs, and Allison comes in and breaks his arm, and then Laurie slits his wrists like suicide note style. And then she just holds his hand that she's cut and stares at him longingly like, I love you or something.
We could have had such a better ending scene together.
Yeah. Like, and it's like her life's purpose is over. Like she just killed her lover or something. And then it's over. He's dead. And he's
dead.
They go to wheel him off, and she's like,
well, because as Allison said, not dead enough.
Not dead enough. That's right.
Yeah.
And so they strap him to the top of Laurie's car.
Yeah.
And they start driving down the road with him. And then somebody's like, aren't you going to stop him? And then the sheriff with the cowboy hat that we've seen in the last two movies, he all of a sudden shows up and he's like, not tonight. Justice will be served tonight.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. Well, first two movies, you didn't want vengeance, vigilante justice.
Yeah. Someone in one of the other cops was like, this is not how it works. Yeah. And the sheriff is like, it is tonight.
It is tonight. And I'm just what happened in 4 years that he's like, first off, after the second movie, I'm surprised he's still sheriff after 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
So anyway, and still wearing the same suit. Well, that one maybe not as much.
I guess everyone got a group text or something that we didn't see because
the whole town's there. It's like a parade. They're going down Main Street. They're all watching as Michael Myers' body is driven to the junkyard. The junkyard that is owned by Corey's dad, maybe.
Yeah.
Who's dead.
Yeah.
Corey's dead. The mom's dead. So now we're trespassing onto private property. And they get Michael's body off the top of the car and crowd surf him.
Yeah. He crowd surfs.
Over
Dead Michael crowd surfs.
To a metal grinder shredder thing. And Laurie's standing on top of it and they like give her the body and she kicks it into the shredder. And just, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And then there was some talk about Corey was consumed by evil.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And then Allison leaves Haddonfield. And Laurie finishes her book. But then Laurie makes a statement in her book. She says, evil doesn't die. It changes shape.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. If they refer to him as the shape, okay. Are we setting up for more movies? Because basically anybody can be the shape at this point, as long as they're evil enough. And then she's ready to move on with Frank at the end of it.
Yep.
She wants to go see those cherry blossoms. And then we see the mask and it fades out. And
the mask is the last shot of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically Michael was a side character in this whole thing.
Yeah, he really was. He was not the star of the show.
I can see why people are signing a petition to redo the third one. I don't think it would help.
No. For one, that's a very stupid thing. Make the movie you want to make. I'm not gonna sign such a mind-boggling, idiotic petition like that. But
I was highly disappointed.
Okay, so here's why I say my thoughts on this are convoluted, because if we look at this movie as just like a generic slasher, it's fine. I mean, it's got a few interesting concepts, I would say as a Halloween movie, as in a movie in the Halloween franchise, it's fine. Again, has some interesting concepts that I don't think were executed well, and some concepts that were frankly set up and then never went anywhere.
Yeah.
So with maybe a few tweaks, it could be fine, honestly.
So,
as a Halloween
so far,
movie.
I'm agreeing with you.
As the final chapter in specifically this Blumhouse trilogy.
Yep.
It sucked!
Yeah, that's where it failed.
So bad!
That's where it failed. It was like, it was a completely separate movie And it feels like we still don't have that third movie from that trilogy that we were working with.
No.
And
I feel like I would be like, okay, I would say Halloween 2018, that's its own thing, and I really liked it, and it could just be the end, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Halloween Kills did not need to happen, but if you want to do that movie and end it the way they did, there were some things about that movie that I would tweak, but overall, I still think that's a perfectly fine way to end, you know?
I don't see it ending there, and I don't see how it could. Okay.
Well, the way I think Kills could have ended just fine is because it kind of gives you that whole. Well, and again, I'm talking theatrically.
Okay.
Theatrically, if the last thing you see is Laurie staring out the window, then you'd be like, Michael Myers is still out there, and who knows what's going to happen. If it had ended there, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
That's not a satisfying ending, but at least.
And other movies could have happened in the franchise, just not necessarily from this series.
Yeah. And Laurie Strode would not have needed to be involved, you know. Yeah. But it could have gone on. But then this movie is like there are concepts in this movie that I think are fine.
Mm-hmm.
But in the hands of a competent writer who knows what to do with them.
I mean, this was
because these went nowhere.
This was bad. I mean, I'm going to go that far. It was bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it went to romantic drama at times.
Oh, dude! Sometimes there were times I'm like, did I accidentally stumble on like a CW Michael Myers series or something?
Yeah,
or
that's what it felt like. It was like, if the CW did Halloween, that's exactly what this felt like.
Yeah, it really did.
Okay, that's my review of it. If the CW did Halloween, this would have been it.
They would have called it Halloween Ends. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
that is just not the way that I would have wanted that to end.
No.
Like you said, there was some promising ideas. They just weren't executed well.
Yeah.
And for a slasher, for a slasher film not to execute things.
Yeah.
That's, come on.
Yeah. Serious.
It was bad.
I don't know. I've heard that there were script rewrites, potentially because of COVID.
You mean there was worse versions?
No, as in like I said at the beginning, my understanding was that this was a movie that was supposed to still take place on Halloween night in 2018.
Yeah, and had it continued on, it would have been a completely different movie. Completely different movie.
And this whole concept of there being a Halloween film where, maybe there's going to be like a successor to Michael Myers, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I still don't think that any studio would have ran with it. I still think, regardless of how this one went, we still would have gotten a Michael Myers film. Yeah. We're going to get another Michael Myers film 5 years
regardless.
At tops.
Regardless.
I give it,
Yeah.
But at least they could have set up and be like, evil can be transferred.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of evil. The mask is what they hide behind.
But then they didn't.
No, they killed off every chance of that. And I don't know. This movie blew it in so many ways, and I still wasn't satisfied. It was bad. It was very, very bad.
Yeah.
I loved the first two. The first one was beautifully done. 2018 was beautifully done.
Yeah.
Kills was just fun.
It was. It was a different type of Halloween movie.
Different type of fun.
Yeah.
Different type of, like you said. It wasn't as serious as the first one. It was more, I'm gonna get you type movie.
And it was really corny at times, but
yeah,
I think it worked.
I think it was kind of meant to be over the top in places.
Yeah.
The third one just went off the rails, And it was like it was trying to find what kind of movie it was and could never find its footing. And I don't know. So
I don't know.
What's your final take on this thing?
I really don't know how to succinctly say it other than as the specific ending to this Blumhouse trilogy, I didn't like it.
Yeah. My review is 2 thumbs up. I loved this movie, everything about it. Go out and see it immediately. Buy all the merch that you can. Support this.
Are we sponsored by them or something?
Yeah, we're sponsored by it. Yeah. In fact, here's a word from our sponsors, Blumhouse.
Yeah.
Oh no, if you couldn't tell, I loved it.
Yeah.
Every minute of it. And I don't know. It was like even some of the acting was bad.
These are not the same.
It hurts me to say it. It was not even the same movies.
No, these are not the same characters that we got in. And see, I would say that about Kills. The characters of the Strodes that we got in the second movie, they're not the same ones that are in the first movie.
No, but they weren't as far off. This was like,
they weren't near as far off.
Laurie was almost a complete 180.
Yeah.
The grand Allison, she was starting to become badass in the second one, and then all of a sudden she's like, I want to be evil now. It's like, okay, I don't know. Yeah. Watch it if you dare. If you're a completionist, check it out. Yeah. Otherwise, just watch the first one. You'll be okay.
Oh yeah,
just watch 2018 and just leave it as though he's dead, and you should be good. But anyway, I think we're now beating a dead horse.
Yes, much like the Blumhouse trilogy did.
Yeah, so. PETA will be calling us here soon. Anyway, as we do on every episode, we are going to put a list of new movies that are going to be coming up in the next few weeks, so you guys can check them out and you don't miss the release dates. And they should be popping up on your screen now.
Oh, there we go.
Look at this one.
That one. Oh, I got to see that one.
I was supposed to be in this one. I was supposed to be in that one.
You were supposed to be in that one.
Yeah, but then they never called me. And then this one, I could have written it, but I didn't. And,
missed opportunity.
You
don't miss the opportunities to see these movies.
Yeah. You miss 90% of the shots you don't take or something like that. Anyway, So anyway, we're going to jump into a little segment that we like to call real life horror stories. These are stories from the real world, and they have a theme of craziness, maniacal, supernatural, paranormal, whatever you want to call it. This one comes from my neck of the woods, haunted North Texas. Should I do it? Right. Should I do it in the accent the whole time? At this haunted North Texas house, the ghosts will freak all night long. Not freak you out. They will freak all night long. The ghosts at this supposedly haunted house in Gainesville reportedly like to talk dirty. They're sexual. Okay. They're sexual, the owner says. There's no other way to put it. No one would confuse a small house on Denton Street of Gainesville for a moving company, but if you do move in, you haul yourself right back out and quick. It's like a revolving door, said Linda Hill, the house owner. The longest anyone has stayed at this house was 6 months. Years ago, they had bought this house. They wanted to rent it out, and they have not been able to keep anybody in the house. They've been through 10 tenants in less than 2 years because the tenants are saying that it's haunted. For some reason, she took a shower at the house. I don't know why, but then she saw a large, dark figure whisper, "Looking good," at her. And at first she assumed it was her husband until a few seconds later when her husband walked into the bathroom. which obviously, by looking at the picture, the ghost is blind.
I was just getting ready to ask
The
you.
blind ghost.
There's an easy way to tell whether or not she's lying, and that is, would a ghost actually say that to her? Or
her husband walks into the bathroom, and he said, "Who are you talking to?" And she goes, "Oh my God, the house really is haunted." Rumor has it that the house was built in the 1840s, and it used to be a bordello. So the ghosts there have a particular nature, as they said. Another one says the ghosts can be heard talking on EVPs, such as saying, "Oh, baby, baby, yeah," and "Yeah, I like it like that." Not all.
I cannot believe you went through this whole story and then stopped doing the accent when you said that.
Oh, that was her doing the accent. Oh, but yeah, if you've seen her pictures, you know her dirty talk is, "Oh baby, yeah. Oh, yeah, I like it like that." You know.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, it was worse with the accent.
Yeah, exactly. So there's also a door in the upstairs bathroom that regularly opens, even though it's been shut tight. And there's also known to be a 19-foot well underneath the living room that some people believe is a spiritual portal. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, almost every psychic that walks into there says that they've claimed to see a dead man lying on the floor of the room that they call the murder room. So, if you're in Gainesville, Florida, and you want to get felt up by a ghost, make sure you check out this house or rent that place.
All right.
Yeah. They're out there, and they want to get freaky all night long.
Can't say I've ever heard of a haunting quite like that.
Yeah. I've got no bones except for one that I want to give to you. Woo! Anyway, we're gonna close it out with a little bit of pick or pass, things that we've watched in the last week or so that has caught our attention. We'll let you know whether or not to pick it up or to pass on it. Shane, I'm gonna let you start. What is something that you've watched?
I've been watching a lot of short films this past week, and one of them I watched is
Stuff with midgets.
One that's I mean, that short film, you know. I watched one called Stalked.
Okay.
And it takes place in the cornfield.
Oh! Don't worry, I had my ears on for that one.
Yeah. No, it's basically... Have you ever watched like those Urban Explorer YouTube channels or anything like that? These people go out to like these abandoned places and...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what the premise of this one is.
Okay.
These people, they're urban explorers, and they're talking to the camera. Hit that subscribe button.
Hit that subscribe button. Oh,
they go
by
out.
The way, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button while you're down there. If you guys want to keep up with all of our, if you guys want to keep up with everything that we put out, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Anyway, continue on.
Yeah, but anyway, just real quick, they go to check out this place called Slaughter Hill.
Oh, of course,
and it's a fitting name. So that's all I'm going to say about it. It's about a 20-minute short film. I actually think it was really well done. Surprisingly brutal in some ways. So I think it's worth it. It's a pick for me. I think it's definitely worth watching, and we can
where can you watch
drop a link to it. I found it on YouTube, so I actually have a link ready. We can leave a link in the description to it if you want to check it out.
All right.
What you got, Chris?
I checked out a film called The Retaliators, which you can watch on Prime.
I've heard of this.
Prime. It is a story about a pastor of a church, single father, 2 kids. The pastor's aptly named Bishop, which I thought was interesting. Well, that's his last name. Anyway, he's a single father. They're still dealing with the grief of his wife passing. Well, the daughter ends up in the wrong place at the wrong time and ends up getting murdered. The father then is really, really dealing with her grief, where he ends up getting approached by a cop or a detective who gives him the opportunity to have a minute alone with the killer because he's caught him and he has him down in his basement. And this is a pastor who speaks on turn the other cheek and really being meek and mild. And, so what would you do if you were given the opportunity to face your daughter's killer one-on-one with an array of weapons? Anyway, it is a very much a story on moral, what do you want to call it? Moral decisions. Yeah. And anyway, it starts going a little awry. It starts going a little crazy. What was kind of cool for me, some of my favorite musicians were in the show. The lead singer Ivan Moody of Five Finger Death Punch was in it, along with some of the members of the band. Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach, he plays one of the killers in it, which we see. And there's Tommy Lee from Motley Crue. He's in it. Anyway, and they do all the soundtrack for it as well. So there's a lot of like musicians in it. It's not the most brilliant film. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like the greatest film ever. And you're dealing with musicians. Some of them are musicians doing the parts and stuff. Overall, it was a fun movie. It was really fun and worth checking out. So it's The Retaliators on Amazon Prime. It's worth checking out. It's a pick.
Cool.
A pick from me. Pick from me to you.
Nice.
So anyway, that is it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week.
Yeah. We're going to be watching Terrifier 2.
Terrifier 2. The vomit
I have heard
inducing.
I've heard some interesting things about reactions to this movie.
Yes. Which this film will be going up on Screambox on Halloween. So right now, currently, it is still in theaters.
It's getting extended releases in theaters.
Yes. So if you missed it the first time around, you'll be able to check it again. Also on Screambox on the 31st, and it will be coming out on DVD and Blu-ray here soon too as well. That is next week. Also, if you guys aren't able to watch us, you guys can also check out the audio versions of this via podcast players, and those release Tuesdays the week after this episode. So if you're hearing this, you've obviously watched this whole episode. But if you weren't able to catch one of them live and you wanted to be able to listen to it, it comes out the Tuesday after we do the audio version. That way you guys can see our pretty mugs before
That's right.
You just have to listen.
Come over to the YouTube channel and get it. What is that? 3 days early? Yeah.
Friday. Okay, so we got Saturday,
Sunday, Monday. 4 days.
4 days early. 4
Sorry, I had to math.
We do
math.
maths.
Getting late for me.
Maths. Anyway, Shane, what else we gotta tell people?
I think that's pretty much it. We don't have any new things up on the YouTube right now, but head over there. We will be getting some trailer reactions done as those pop up. We have a lot of stuff planned that we want to do, so
a ton.
Head over to the YouTube, search us there. Remember to like and subscribe to get alerted when we do drop new content.
And if you feel like, hitting a third button, go ahead and share it. Share it with some people, because
sharing would be good.
Sharing is caring. Sharing is caring. And we need Karen. Anyway, also make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Casters of Horror. Anyway.
Indeed.
That's it for this week. I'm Chris Mess.
I'm Shane.
We'll see you guys.
See ya.